Have you ever been asked to create training and thought, okay, so where do I even start? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. In this episode, Dr. Chuck Hodel and I are going to be discussing what to do when your boss asks you to build training. We're also going to talk about the biggest mistake that new instructional designers make and the questions that you should be asking before you open up something like PowerPoint. So let's get into it. All right, Chuck, let's say that my boss walks in and says, Denise, we need training in this. Can you build it? What is the first thing that I should be doing?
The first thing I would do is ask, what are your expectations for this? What do you expect to get out of it? What should this learner look like when they leave this course? I want to know exactly what this person wants, so that very early, first thing, we determine whether, first of all, even if we need a course, because as you and I both know, sometimes people like courses to address problems that aren't addressable by courses. But the other thing is, if they haven't thought about what they're really trying to get out of it, then you're never going to make them happy. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on was not asking these questions. And then when we got halfway down the trail, there's this, why are you doing that? That's not what I wanted. My expectations were different. So I like to define those things first thing. Tell me exactly what you want out of this. Tell me what you want them to be able to do at the end of this. And then we'll get into specifics about budget and timing and all the rest of it. But as a designer, don't design a course that's not going to address a problem that somebody thinks they have.
Yeah, and I think I've learned this from you, and just from the experience I've had of developing and delivering instruction training, is that really, I think it's never too early to be asking the question, how will success be measured?
Yeah.
Because I think that helps you to, when you're considering what exactly do you want them to be able to do. Now we have to figure out how we're going to measure that. How are we going to know that they're performing to that mastery?
So one of the things new designers have to think about is, where am I in this organization in terms of their experience with instructional design? So if you are coming in and working in a department that's been well established and they've done courseware forever and there's really good designers there, it's a different situation. If you're in an organization that doesn't have a design and course design history, and you don't have people that are familiar with the process, you've got a whole different situation. So depending on which one of these paths you might be on, or some combination of these things, it's really important that early on you be an instructional designer and you do the Hippocratic Oath. You go down the points, say, I don't want to do any harm here. But also what I don't want to do is have someone under a group of expectations that I can never meet because they've never defined them. And I can't tell you how many times I've asked boards and managers and others, I said, you need to tell me specifically what your expectation is. Otherwise, I'll never make you happy. And it's true.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking I'm going to take the kind of the role here of somebody who is new to instructional design, or not even instructional design necessarily, but new to somebody asking them to, hey, create a training, an onboard training. So, my question would be, I think, and the questions that folks might have is, well, what happens when nobody gives you those answers? Like, maybe they don't know the answers to those questions. What do you do then?
Well, what I do now, after years of experience at this, is I say, we need to sit down and have a meeting. So you bring in your decision makers or whoever you want in this, and I'm going to do kind of a question and answer session, or we'll do a focus group or whatever we need to do. But between us, we need to establish what these things are. And in going through that process, what I found is many times they were really happy that we did this because they were able to get focus on what they wanted to accomplish. So if we're designing onboarding training, there's stuff you have to do. Okay, legal's always got stuff. HR's always got stuff. So you have that boilerplate that you're not going to get far away from. But what is their goal? So some organizations do onboarding because they want it to be a pep rally. and they'll do the other stuff, but they don't really care about it. It's just legal telling them they got to do it. But other people really say they want to build a community within these new employees. They want to make them feel welcome. They want to bring them into the family. And as we found in onboarding from the research, if you don't do it in the first couple of weeks, you're going to lose these people because they're not going to feel like part of the family. You're going to feel like they're just a hire, and so what? So when you have that discussion with folks making decisions, you say, one really good design here is, first of all, to focus on bringing them in, making them feel welcome. Obviously do the other stuff because we have to do that. And I can say this from experience because I've done a lot of onboarding courses. I just in the last 6 weeks, I put together onboarding and delivered the course myself. So I'm familiar with this, but I didn't know this when I first started being a designer. And I was happy to get the work, and I didn't really push the buttons I needed to do. And the first one is, tell me what you want. Tell me what it looks like.
Yeah. So that's one of the most important questions. Would you maybe the top 3 questions that a person in this position should ask of the client in this case? What would those top 3 questions be? Because I think that might be a burning question for folks listening in who are put in this position.
Depending on the background information, how much you already know about an institution or what they're trying to accomplish. If you're coming in from the outside, it's a whole different set of questions than if you're an internal designer doing things. But I think generally, as we talk, what do you want to get out of this? Second is, what format do you want to use? Are we talking about online? Are we talking about classroom? Are we talking about blended? And 3 and 4 are budget and timeline. And once I get all of those things, then I can put together a proposal. And even if you're in-house, you need to do a design plan and a proposal. Otherwise, this thing goes off the rails more times than not. So what do you want? What's the format? What's your budget? And when do you expect it? And if you can get answers to those 4, then the other questions will become obvious.
And, from my experience, some folks don't know what they want. And I think a good question, a good starting point for client who is like, I really don't know. I just know we need onboard training. I think the first question maybe could be, well, what is the problem that you're trying to solve in this training? And if you frame it that way, then their brain's going to go on a search for the answer to that. And they're going to think, anybody who starts and they haven't had onboard training, they maybe, I don't know what it could be, but what is the biggest problem? Every organization has them. And so what are we trying to solve so that it does not become a problem down the road for new employees and as they season into seasoned employees, I should say as well. So knowing what the problem is a good place to start.
Yeah. And I've had an entire range of answers to that. And I sat down with a large organization with a lot of money. It could have been a very lucrative contract. And the individual making these decisions, the CEO or whoever it was, said, what I really want to do is give my folks a week off with training. I want them just to feel good about the organization. There's really no specific goal I'm trying to reach. I just want them to feel like we appreciate what they're doing and all these things. I said, well, how am I going to do that with training? I mean, what specifically do you want them to leave with? And he said, I want them to feel good about this company. And I said, well, I used to be a musician. If I sang to them for 5 days, do you think we could get them to, sit around the campfire and do marshmallows? And he looked at me like some people look at me when I do these things. And he started thinking about it. And he said, I see your point. I mean, we have to have a purpose here. And I said, yeah, we really do. Otherwise, I can't guarantee you any success. If you want an entertainer, if you want somebody to be a motivator for them, that's terrific. It's just not instructional design. We'll help you find somebody. And we ended up having a very good conversation. And also they ended up coming up with some really good ideas about what they could do with that time. So yes, everybody in the organization got a week in training, but we actually focused on productivity and teamwork and, those kind of things. And it ended up being very successful. But in the beginning, I could have done just about anything if they had a week off. And boy, that's a dangerous cliff if you're an instructional designer, because I don't know that I'm not a motivating speaker. Let's just not Chuck. So, I'm a nuts and bolts kind of person. I like to be in the background. I just do the work, and here you go. So, it was a good discussion. But if I wouldn't have asked those questions, you know what? I'd never made them happy. Ever.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's important to go in there with the context. What is the return on investment? We don't want to be wasting their time. When I think about onboard training or any kind of training, as a student of something like that, I want to walk away with tangible, practical things that I can implement right away. So what you did, you turned it into a productivity type of training. Yep. That's something that is empowering to an organization. And so it gives a purpose and a goal and an endpoint to what the training should be focused on. And then from that, naturally, teamwork and all that kind of bridges into that. But the goal, instead of just being, I want a more cohesive team and everyone to have a good time, having an actual goal, because if you don't know where you want to go, you're never going to get there.
No, you never. And Dr. Cook always said, tell me where you're going. And he always used Dallas, Texas. Says, okay, we're going to Dallas. And it became a big joke in a graduate program. And when he retired, I got him a map of Texas with a big star over Dallas.
Hilarious.
And he laughed. He got it. But so, we're going to end this up because we're going to have, 25 or 26 of these, I think, in a series here. So we're just poking at you right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through a course design. And I think it'll probably be onboarding or some other required thing that most organizations do. So that as you get started, you're usually placed in these things as a designer because that's just what they have to do and what they want to do. So we're going to push it around. And I think the one thing that I would like everybody to leave with is this is a process. You have to think about things. You have to have an approach to this, and each one of you will have a unique approach to it, but it needs to be down the same path. You need to think about what people are going to leave with, what are the expectations of the organization and the people making those decisions, and how can I best meet that? And if I can't, how are we going to have that discussion so we can come to a compromise?
Yeah, that sounds great. Great plan. I'm looking forward to digging into this with you, Chuck. And the goal is to create something that is practical for our viewers, that they can walk away and design really great training with purpose. Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.